talk about only first 8, okay? We will disregard this last 2 principles because those are not really related to the microeconomics. So first of all, we want to talk about what do we study in economics. Okay? So again, in a way, economics is a study of a decision making. Okay? So some individuals in the economic scenario, they have some incentives and they have some constraints. And given a constraint, how do they make decisions? Okay? So that's the really large question that economics address. So in that way, in that regard, economics is, it's very applicable in any social science scenario. Okay? But in this class, we will restrict our attention to the 2 actors, which is firms and consumers. Okay? So when in this class, our main objective will be to understand their decisions and to understand the consequences of their decisions. Okay? So now, in any decision, you make or I make, we have some constraint. So usually the constraint comes in a form of scarcity. Okay? So we have some valuable resource that's limited in quantity. Okay? For example, as an individual, your most important resource is your time, right? So we have 24 hours a day, and we'll expect to live maybe 70 to 80 years. So time is the real valuable resource. So now our decision will be, how do I allocate my time, right? My important resource. So should I work, or should I go to school, and so on, right? So in that sense, how many hours to work, right? So in this content, the limited resource is the amount of time that you have, right? So if we talk about consumers' order decisions, such as what to purchase, then what is the limited resource that you have? Money, right? So you have limited quantity of money. Given that constraint, what would you buy? Okay? So now you can see that depending on the question that we ask, the limited resource can change. Right? It could be sometimes money, it could be sometimes your time, and so on. So we want to understand those type of decisions for consumers. And same thing for producers, but for producers, firms, right? So now they have to decide what to produce, and they have to decide how many units they produce, and maybe how much to charge for the good, and so on. Right? So we want to understand the firm's decision. So there's many ways to define what economics study. So the typical way, the standard traditional way is this one, right? So economics is about how the society or individuals manage its limited resources. Okay? Whatever that limited resource can be, it could be, right? So it's a time, or it's a natural resource. So then, to take away from this slide will be, well, again, we always make a decision, and then there's some constraint, mostly in terms of limited resource, and then we have to allocate our limited resource accordingly. Okay? Now, we go into the principles. So again, those are quite straightforward principles. Okay? But regardless, those are quite important principles, and those will shed light on how economists think about problems. Okay? So first problem that you always acknowledge is whenever we're talking about decision, usually there's some trade-off. Okay? Trade-off. People face trade-offs, or you can say, every decision you have to consider a trade-off. So again, you have, again, now this is kind of general decision-making problem, right? You have many alternatives to choose from, and you choose one thing, right? So basically choosing that one thing means that you're not choosing all other things. So we have to acknowledge the existence of the other choices, right? So then, when you come to the Ryerson, maybe you had more than one offers, Ryerson and some other school. So by coming to Ryerson, of course, you closing the other path, right? Okay. To get one thing, we usually have to give up something else, right? So we have to acknowledge the fact, right? In most of the decision making, there's some trade-off. Basically, this will happen when you have more than one choice, right? When you have one choice, life is easy, right? You don't need to think about anything, right? So when you have one choice, you just choose that one. But when you have more than one alternative to choose from, then there's trade-off. So then you can think of allocations of your time or your money. So then if you buy a new gadget or new iPhone, which means that, assuming that you have limited amount of money, if you buy iPhone today, for next few months you will not buy any other cell phone, for example, right? So again, of course, there are more than one choices for cell phones, so again, about your time, you can allocate your time, so you can choose, either to study or to have fun, right? So if you study more, that means less time for fun, right? So there's always this trade-off, right? So trade-off exists as long as there's more than one alternatives to choose from. Okay? And same thing for investment decisions. So individual level, it's quite easy to understand, but in a large level, as a society, there's a very important trade-off, which is the trade-off between efficiency and equity. Okay? So then, first we have to define efficiency and equity. Well, equity is just equality, okay? Equality. So the fairness of economic outcome or allocation. And efficiency is defined in this following way. Okay? So are we getting the most out of the limited resources that we have? Okay? That's our definition of efficiency. So basically, if we think economy as a big pie, efficiency is regarding the size of pie. Okay? Are we maximizing our pie? And equity is regarding how this pie is actually allocated between the members of this economy. Okay? So again, assume you have a country with a king, okay? And the king makes everybody to work really hard. So the outcome of that economy is efficient, right? Everybody is working hard. We get most of all our resources. But in that setup, the equity point of view, the king can get everything to himself, right? So then there's usually, more efficient does not mean, more equity, right? More equality. So then we'll talk about again, we'll come back to the efficiency in principle number 5 or 6. So we'll talk about efficiency a little more about it. So the second principle is, again, it's just a continuation of the first principle. First principle, we said, well, when you have more than one alternative to choose from, we have to acknowledge the existence of the alternatives that you're not choosing, right? Now, the second one is, well, now we say, what is the cost of choosing one item? Right? Well, the cost of something is what you give up to get it, right? So now we introduce the concept of opportunity cost. So now this is the what do you give up to obtain the thing that you choose, okay? So you choose one alternative. What is the real cost of that alternative, right? Well, it is the cost of what you gave up. Okay. So cost of choosing one career is the what you give up all other career paths, right? Instead of becoming a doctor, you could become a lawyer and so on, right? So, and what is the cost of getting a free, say, item in the street is, well, in many cases you have to wait a little bit. So now cost of that item is not in terms of money, but it will be in terms of your time. Right? So again, economists usually say there's no such thing as a free lunch. Okay? So how do we justify this? Well, again, in this waiting in line for free item justifies this, right? So, what are other ways to justify this statement? Well, usually, there's some hidden cost when you get the free item. If you take this viewpoint to the extreme. Suppose the lunch is free, and suppose there's no waiting line, but still then, in order to eat the lunch, you have to spend some time, right? So in that way, nothing is really free, right? So any questions? So again, those are quite intuitive concepts. The third one is we talk about rational people, and then we say rational people think at the margin. Okay? So this is very specific to the economics. Okay, this way of thinking. So again, in economics, we assume everybody is so-called rational. So how do we define rationality? Well, we define somebody is rational if that somebody is always trying to do their best to achieve their objective, okay? So you have some objective, some criteria, you will always do your best according to that criteria, okay? So in this class, we assume the following criteria. Okay? So firms, we always assume the sole objective is to maximize their profit. Okay? So that's our simplified assumption. So maybe that's not the case, right? Maybe the sole objective is to maximize their market share, but in this class, we'll take this stance. Okay? And this is quite well supported empirically, so we'll assume the sole objective of our firms in this class is to maximize the profit, and the sole objective of our consumers is to achieve the highest level of satisfaction. Okay? So we will come to this fact, the highest level of satisfaction, actually at the end of this lecture. Okay? One of the last chapters we'll talk about, chapter 21, we'll talk about this theory. Okay? So what is the marginal change, right? So marginal change is, you can just think of as a delta x when x being very small, okay? when we talk about, for example, rise over run, so when delta x is very small, we call that the marginal change. Okay? So it's really small change to the current situation. Okay? So it's a small incremental adjustment to existence. So it's because of the following. Okay? Because in economics, in many decisions, the decision variable can be expressed by a number. Okay? So in that case, for example, how many units of certain good that you're going to buy, then we can talk about this incremental change, right? What happens if I buy one more unit of that? Okay? So let's take an example. So we're talking about a situation where you're in some taco place, and suppose you consume 3 tacos already. Okay? So now you're quite full, and then you ask yourself the following question: okay, should I eat one more taco? Okay? So in that case, the rational people or rational person in this in our class will think as following. Okay? So what is the marginal benefit or the marginal cost of having this one additional taco? Okay? Well, marginal cost is obvious, right? What is the cost of having one additional taco? Well, you have to pay the price, right? Again, in this example, we ignoring the time component. Okay? Time is important, but we assuming you have. So we're not including the cost of time in this analysis. So the marginal cost of having one additional taco is the price of the taco. So the marginal benefit will be, well, this will be some imaginary benefit that you just think in your head, right? What will be the extra satisfaction I'll get if I have one more taco? So we'll say that if you choose to purchase one more taco, we'll say the marginal benefit exceeds the marginal cost. And if you choose not to buy one more taco, we'll say, well, the marginal benefit of having this last taco is actually less than the marginal cost. So then we talk about this marginal change again in a scenario where your choice objective can be quantified, okay? Can be expressed by numbers of taco. Okay? So it's same as, again, your leisure, when we come back, if you come back to the time as a limited resource, then of course your leisure, the time, it's expressed by numbers. So one day there are 24 hours. So now you can think of this marginal change, right? Again, suppose you have an exam tomorrow, and suppose now it's 11 p.m. Now you say, okay, should I study one more hour, right? So what is the marginal benefit of studying one more hour? Well, the marginal benefit will be you can cover some additional topics which could increase your grade, right? What is the marginal cost of studying one more hour? Well, that means, you will sleep less, so there's a probability you will be quite tired tomorrow, right? So you can think about those trade-offs when you make a decision. Okay? So then, principle number 3 is in a scenario where your choice alternatives are quantified by numbers. Okay? So any questions? Principle 4, again, it's just a straightforward thing. People respond to incentive. Okay? So we all know that. But again, how we define incentive is, again, incentive is something that gives, that induces action. Something like reward or punishment. Okay? So then, society always built a system to to lay out the incentives, right? So we have lots of rules, law and rules, and we know that if we do something bad, we'll go to jail, and that gives us incentive not to do bad things, right? So same thing in economics, right? So if the price, usually the incentive comes in economic terms, basically it comes in the price or income. If the price of certain good increases, of course, people will react to that incentive and then they will buy less of that good, right? And so on. So then, principle 4 is really something obvious. Regarding the principle 4, so people respond to incentive, right? But again, sometimes it's really hard to foresee what will happen, right? So you change some regulation with mind that will, result in certain outcome, but in many cases, human behavior is so complex, we have some unintended consequences. Okay? Something like in NFL, American Football League, the concussion is a big issue, so they usually have measures to decrease the concussions by providing more pads and stuff. But again, in many cases, that will actually have unintended consequences, right? Because it will have a false sense of security when you have a lot of pads, and then as a result, concussion actually could increase, right? So we have to acknowledge that in many cases, the human decision making is quite complex, so sometimes it's hard to foresee exactly what consequences rule change will bring, right? So, chapter 5, principle 5, this is a topic of next week's class, okay? So in chapter 3, we'll actually delve into this principle. It says trade can make everybody better off. So again, what is the most important feature of today's economy, right? So nowadays, everybody chooses usually one career path. So we specialize into one profession, right? So you'll become a carpenter or you'll become a baker, but in many cases, one person only do one thing, right? So why is that, right? So again, the answer is our principle number 5, and which will be studied next week again, okay? In detail. So now, by allowing trade, right? Now everybody can specialize in things that they're good at, okay? And then they can trade after that, after producing the goods that they're good at, right? So by doing so, it can make everybody better, okay? So this pattern can be seen between individuals, and everybody is nowadays specializing in only one profession, or it can be seen in the trade between countries, right? So if you see certain countries, they usually specialize in one industry, in other countries specialize in another industry, and then they get to trade, right? So by doing so, everybody can be better, okay? So this comes from the fact that it actually increases the efficiency, okay? If you're talking about trade, the world trade, by allowing trade and the specialization, the world economic pie can be increased. Okay? So that we'll talk about next week, okay? In detail. So after next week, you understand why trade is important. Okay? So in chapter 4, we'll talk about economic market outcome. In that case, we'll talk about, again, in this class, in most of the time, unless we're talking about monopolists and so on, we'll talk about market economy, okay? So, or competitive economy. So market economy, it's the economy that allocates resources to market forces, okay? So now we have so many firms and so many consumers in the market, and they will guided by the market price, okay? So basically, suppose we're talking about market for some good, say sugar. So now there's a posted price for sugar in the market. So you go to the grocery store, you can buy sugar for some price. So just looking at that price, you'll make your decision, right? You say, okay, I'm going to buy 1 kilo or 2 kilos and so on. So consumers will make decisions based on the market price. And same thing for the producers, right? So suppose you interested producer, you're thinking about producing sugar, right? So what will influence your decision is the price of the sugar, right? You'll see the price of the sugar, and you say, okay, the price of sugar is high enough, I'm interested in starting this business, right? So this market price will guide everybody in this economy, okay? Consumers and producers. So this price mechanism, we refer it as market economy, okay? So everybody see price as a signal, and then everybody will make decision depending on the market price. So what is important in this scenario is the price now as a signal has a lot of good properties, okay? So price will reveal the valuation of the buyer's valuation of the good, right? Basically, if you go to the grocery store, if you choose to buy 1 kilo of sugar, that means for you it's worth to pay market price for that good, right? Basically, nobody is forcing you to buy the good, right? It's your own decision. You choose to purchase the good. So that means you have to value the good high enough that you're happy to pay the price, right? So same thing for the producers. Nobody's forcing anybody to produce a good in this market. If they choose to come to the market and choose to produce a good, that means they're happy to produce the good at the current price, right? So that means price will reveal the seller's cost of the producing good. Okay? So price has a lot of information. Okay? So again, suppose price of 1 kilo of sugar is how much these days? 99 cents? Maybe $2. Suppose it's $2. Okay? Then what I tell from that $2 is, I'll say, okay, everybody who's purchasing the sugar at this price is happy to pay the price, so they have higher valuation than $2. And everybody's producing the sugar, all the different firms, they have a really good technology so that they're profitable to produce the good at this price, right? So price is very important, right? It has this role as a signal, okay? So again, because of that, right, again, the main thing is in market economy, nobody's forced to make a decision, right? Nobody's forced to buy a good or nobody's forced to produce the good. So of course, as a result, the market economy usually gives us a very nice outcome. Okay? So basically, this is the inside of Adam Smith. So he's the father of modern economics. Okay? So he kind of observed the following fact. Right? So basically, in this market economy, if everybody makes the decision according to the price, market price, then even though everybody's making selfish decision, okay? So the firm's objective is just to maximize their profit, and consumers' objective is just to maximize their own well-being, right? But as a result of this market mechanism, we'll have some outcome that is desirable, okay? It's as if we're led by invisible hand, okay? So again, this invisible hand is none other than the market economy or price mechanism of market economy, okay? And then what is so desirable about the outcome? Well, this outcome is actually efficient, okay? So we actually, even though everybody is acting selfishly in this economy, this market economy, in the end, the market price has okay? So that's the main insight of the market economy, the trade economy. But again, we have to take this with some caution, right? Because we're saying that the market economy, and we'll explain why this happens in chapter 4 again, but what we're saying is, well, if in this market economy, the economic price is being maximized, right? But it doesn't say anything about equity, okay? So again, equity has been a very big problem these days, right? We always know there's a lot of news about top 1% earners. They earn like more than half of all everybody, all the income in the economy. But market economy only says that we maximizing our economic pie, but it doesn't say anything about how it's divided between consumers or members of this economy. Okay? Right? So we have to take that into, we have to be a little careful in that regard. Right? So again, it is true that the modern economics as a science puts probably too much importance on efficiency rather than equity. Right? So government can sometimes improve market outcomes. So there are two ways that happen. So first one is what we call the market failure. Market failure happens actually when the principle 6 doesn't hold. Okay? Sometimes because of some additional force, the final allocation of the goods in the economy is not efficient. Okay? In that case, we call it market failure. And there's two cases when the market failure will happen. So the case that we'll study in this class is what's called market power. Okay? So now when there's a few number of sellers, for example, suppose there's only one firm in the market, right? So say we call that firm a monopoly. When there's a monopolist, then of course now the price will not reveal the cost of producing the good, right? Because the monopolist can set any price they want, right? The price does not reveal the true cost, right? And due to that, there could be a market failure, which means the economic pie is not being maximized when there's a monopolist. Okay? Same thing happens when there's what's called externality. So it's one person's action affects bystanders, positively or negatively, but it's not through the price mechanism. Okay? So the typical example is a pollution. Okay? So now I'm a firm that produces food. I suppose I also pollute the environment, right? The cost of pollution is usually not revealed in my price, okay? In my cost. So in that case, those cases, the government can intervene and they can increase the market efficiency. Okay? So then in this class, we'll talk about the second case. We basically talk about the monopolies, okay? And then we'll see why market failure can happen. But of course, again, second role of government is, to promote the equity, right? Income tax, welfare systems, examples of such role. So the last principle, it's something that's related to both macroeconomics and microeconomics. So this is country's standard of living depends on its ability to produce goods and services. So again, we know if you choose different countries, like, so I'm from Mongolia. If you choose Mongolia and Canada, the standard of living is different, right? So now we ask, okay, what is the differences coming from? And really, in the long run, only thing that matters is the productivity, okay? So what is productivity? It is the quantity of goods that can be produced from 1 hour in 1 hour of a typical worker in that economy, okay? So how productive the workers are in the given economy. So productivity depends on a few things, right? Productivity depends on technology, productivity depends on the skills of the workers, and also, of course, it will depend on the current equipment level, right? Whether you have enough machinery. So in that regard, in the long run, investing in those things are quite important for economy, okay? You have to invest in technology, which is the research and development. We have to invest in our education. We have to invest in capital, right? To sustain the long run growth of the economy, okay? This is our last principle, and again, we will skip the last two principles because those not related to microeconomics. So we'll not be talking about this anyway in this class, so we'll just skip it. So, three review questions. So this is important trade-off. One is maybe 2%. So let's talk about last one. Okay? So water is necessary for life. Is the marginal benefit of glass of water small or large? So what would be your answer to this type of question? So I'm offering you 1 glass of water. What is the marginal benefit, right? Is it large or small? Well, in everyday life, it should be, I'm in my home, the marginal benefit of 1 glass of water usually is not really big, right? It's because I have running water, so I can drink water anytime I want. So, having one, basically the gist will be, I'm not thirsty most of the time, right? So then, marginal benefit always depends on your original situation, right? Where you at, right? The answer to this question depends on where you at. Are you at your home or are you in the desert, right? In the desert, suppose you're very thirsty. In that case, marginal benefit is really big, right? It could save your life, right? But if you're at your home, it could be really small, right? If you're not thirsty. So then, when we talk about marginal change, we always have to be sure that what is our original scenario, right? So the last question could be large or small, depending where you are, right? So what is the opportunity cost of seeing a movie? Yes. Your time, right? So So you can spend your time on some other activity, right? You could study or you could do some part-time job and earn money. So those will be, well, actually, opportunity cost will be, again, this is quite abstract concept, right? Because suppose instead of watching movie, you could do two things, right? You could study and you could hang out with your friends, right? At your home, maybe play on the PlayStation. So now, what is the opportunity cost, right? When you have more than two alternatives, right? So the opportunity cost will be, if the movie option wasn't there, what would be your next best choice, right? So, and then if movie option wasn't there, you'll go to the second best choice, right? So that one is your opportunity cost, right? When you have more than three alternatives, the opportunity cost of choosing one alternative would be, without this option, what was your choice, right? We disregard the least probable alternative, right? So then this, opportunity cost is quite kind of abstract concept, right? Again, sometimes, what is the real opportunity cost of seeing a movie, right? So you will say, okay, I could study instead of seeing a movie, but what is the outcome of studying, right? Well, you could increase your grade, but what is the outcome of increased grade, right? Well, you could maybe go. So again, the question is very difficult, right? It could make, so we'll take that, but still the concept of opportunity cost is quite important. Huh? To really answer opportunity cost of watching a movie, we'll stop in the first step, right? We'll say, well, instead of watching movie, I could study, right? But you can say, what is the real outcome of studying 1 more hour, right? Then the question will be quite complicated, right? All right, so let's take 10 minutes break and then we'll come back to chat.